All right, gang, you made it. Welcome to this sixth and final episode of segment 2, Marketing Your Home in Today's Digital Atmosphere. And in this sixth episode, we are going to address the big, fat, loud elephant in the room of buyer compensation. Buyer agent compensation, buyer's realtor. So you have found these videos likely because you don't want to pay no stinking realtor to sell your home. That is genuinely and typically the driving reason behind any seller wanting to sell their home on their own and not use a professional. It's, I hope, very obvious to everybody watching these videos that a heck of a lot goes into a professional realtor's job in getting your home sold for the highest dollar figure. And if you are taking all of that work unto yourself, it's probably because you don't want to spend the money to do so. However, there are going to be buyer real estate professionals on the opposite end of the transaction. Now, why is this? Let's talk about that concept first. Very simply, when a home is being sold, the sellers are typically making some money and the buyers are spending a lot of money. And when it comes to real estate commissions, it is very difficult for the wide majority of buyers to come up with out-of-pocket broker agent compensation for their buyer's agents because they're already spending on everything else. Inspections, appraisals, closing costs, earnest money deposits, you name it. They are bleeding, hemorrhaging money throughout the purchase of their home. And on the other side of the coin, especially if you've got a real estate professional helping you sell your home, you really haven't spent any money until the closing happens. Which is when you'll have to make your disbursements to whomever for whatever services rendered. Now, some people seem to think that, well, why can't we just build it into the buyer's loan? And the problem with that is appraisals. The bank is looking at your property and assessing its value, and only its value, not some other tens of thousands of dollars value higher from which they might be able to compensate the real estate professional involved and still pay the seller the agreed price for their home. So you start to get the idea. Now, the real exhausting work of selling your home on your own is it's a rite of passage, and you're going to save yourself some money there. And hopefully you don't screw it up because you have watched all these videos and you've learned how to do it on your own, and you've removed yourselves from those potential pitfalls that could cost you a lot of money and maybe torpedo your transaction. But on the buyer side, because of the way the commission is structured, the buyers don't have to pay those agents, and they're because of that, looking at that free work, they're almost always going to have a buyer's agent on their side, and you want this. There are innumerable ways that your transaction can be torpedoed for reasons that are not within your control. So as many of these videos as you may watch, you can't possibly control all the variables on the buyer side. You really want a real estate professional on the buyer side guiding that buyer to doing the things that they need to do correctly to make sure your transaction survives. And job one is those mortgage pre-approvals and making sure that this buyer is bankable. It's all well and good for you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, to receive an offer from an unrepresented buyer, and then there's no commission that needs to be paid. But if that unrepresented buyer has a pre-approval that was based just on stated fact and not corroborated by paperwork by a mortgage broker, your transaction is probably going to flop. You're going to end up in contract for 3 weeks, maybe 5 weeks before you learn that this buyer of yours can't actually even get the loan they purported to be pre-approved for because the loan officer never actually checked the documentation necessary to corroborate those claims, which isn't technically legally necessary. Mortgage pre-approvals can be given based solely on stated answers to certain questions regarding income and debt. So your buyer's real estate professional has a financial vested interest getting paid at the end of the transaction and making a living in seeing that your transaction survives. If they have not done their homework on the loan officer and the mortgage broker, mortgage lender, and the buyer, transaction won't survive and they won't get paid. So these folks are doing that homework for you. you want them to come to the table. You want to offer compensation to them to attract them and their buyers to your property to make sure, again, they have the most eyeballs, the most offers, and being able to leverage those offers against one another at the end of the day. So how much should commission be? What should you be offering? You got to do your own research there. It's different in every market locality, but generally speaking, somewhere between 2 and 7%. There's no industry standard. It changes everywhere, and the reasoning behind that changes everywhere. Most folks are familiar with a 6 or 7% total commission, which would be split between seller's agent and buyer's agent, and that number comes from the national average of how much extra money a real estate professional might help a seller earn in their sale. It's generally about that much, 6 or 7%. So that ends up being the broker's compensation, and the seller makes the same money that they would have otherwise. Now, you want to be specific and set the expectations up front in your listing information. You don't necessarily, even if you are willing to pay a buyer's broker's real estate commission, you don't want to hold that till the last moment. You don't want to make that part and parcel of the negotiation on the agreed sales price, because you're going to miss people. We can easily guess that there are lots of buyers, real estate agents out there whose clients are family and friends of theirs, close cohort. If a potential buyer is interested in a property, but that property does not list any buyer's broker compensation, that friend of theirs may say, hey, I think I like this house, but I'm going to skip it. I want you to be able to get paid. You're a real good buddy of mine. And the fact that they're not offering compensation, I don't want you to get stiffed, even if they are offering compensation at the end of the day and it's made part of a material part of a negotiation for the house. I don't want to tread those waters. I don't want my negotiation on the price point of the home that I'm trying to live in be tied to what you're going to make. It's too much. Let's just go to the next house. And here you are, missing buyers, and the eligible pool of people who would be interested in buying your home is dwindling for reasons that could have been avoided. So be upfront, publish what you expect to be offering in the terms of buyer broker compensation in your listing information, so that everybody who's digesting that information knows that their buyer's broker can be compensated. And this also goes further to cementing the fact that you are an honest, trustworthy, and transparent seller, and that not only should your potential buyers be interested in doing business with you, but so should their licensed representatives and professionals. So congratulations, you've made it to the end of segment 2 on how to sell your home without a realtor. And let's do it again, Smarty Pants. Break out the notebooks for segment 3. We got a lot more coming to you. There's a lot more to know. We haven't even gotten to the point where we've gotten a buyer yet, and we're going through contracts and paperwork and legal stuff. There's a lot more to know. So we'll see you there on to segment 3. Peace out.